Welcome to Milton and King's On the Wall podcast, where we engage in conversations with artists, designers, and more. In this episode, we speak with Kirsten Morey, kitchen and bath designer and owner of The Material Bar. If you enjoy this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe and leave us a rating and review.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Thanks for coming on the podcast with me.
Absolutely.
How's the day going?
It is, what day is today? It's Tuesday. It's a beautiful day. I mean, it's not that sunny here in the Pacific Northwest, but it's a good day.
Is it ever really sunny up there?
Yes, it actually is. We actually have the most amazing secret summers. It hardly ever rains. It's a well-kept secret. Yes, because everybody thinks it just rains up here, but it doesn't. In the summer, it's just beautiful.
Oh, secret summers. It's a nice little catchphrase.
Yeah.
That's cool. How long have you lived up there?
I have been here for about 7 years now, maybe a little bit longer than 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And where were you before that?
Before that, I was actually living in Georgia for about 3.5 years.
Oh, you went from the South to the Pacific Northwest.
Well, originally I'm from Germany. So I went from Germany to the South and then didn't understand anybody and then came to the Pacific Northwest.
Well, because the accent was so thick or something?
It was, very thick. Yeah. When you're in school in Germany, they teach you Oxford British English. And then I came to the South and I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting.
So you're originally from Germany.
Yes.
Born and raised in Germany?
Yeah. Born and raised and studied over there and then came to the U.S. with 24.
Came to the U.S. when you were 24?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to necessarily age you or...
So it's funny. My friend was just asking me. So it's been about 11 years.
Wow. You know what? Your accent is very, very, very subtle.
Yes. I do hear that. I'm a little bit of a chameleon, but I did grow up bilingual. So my mom is actually American, but she ended up living in Germany longer than in the States. So she raised us bilingual, but German was my first language.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Is your mom still in Germany?
No, 5 years ago, most of the family actually moved to the East Coast.
Oh, okay. So the whole family moved stateside.
Yeah.
Wow. What prompted that? Why leave Germany?
Just the opportunity. I mean, I feel like a lot of people, people everywhere always like to complain. But honestly, if you look at it from a different perspective, America has the most amazing opportunities. And if you really put your mind to it, then you can really do you can build your dream life over here. And it's really exciting and it's very true. And my family recognized that as well. And my stepdad actually is he's worked in construction and building his whole life. So he came over here and they're just loving it.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's two things that you just mentioned there that I'd love to dive into real quick before we get too much into the design stuff. Just in terms of, I think people would be interested in your background. But so you say, for the opportunity, they say U.S. is a land of opportunity, and you found that to be the case.
Yes.
Why was it not that way in Germany?
So,
just curious.
Yeah, and that's a really great question. Other countries have just different kind of rules and especially tax laws. So, when I was working in Germany and I was a young professional, you get your paycheck once a month, and then I would only receive I think I only received about 55% of my paycheck. So that is, deducting all of the taxes. The taxes are higher, way higher. Everything is more expensive than over here. And, things like, there's free healthcare. There's no free healthcare. You're just forced to pay for it. It's 50-50 with you and your employer. There's no free healthcare. So all those things where it seemed like the minute I came to the US and I had to start really, really kind of from the bottom up again, it just immediately felt like, wow, you're more in control of how you're going to utilize your income.
Hmm.
So I really like that. And I just feel, I don't know, there's just something in the air about America where it's like there's just so much opportunity. And if you're a hard worker, it just seems like you can just achieve so much more.
Yeah. So basically, overregulated, overtaxed,
Oh, very much. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
would you say there's a, because obviously there's lots of great German brands and companies and things.
Hmm.
Would you say that there is, because you said like obviously you come here and you say there's something in the air, like there's a sense that's it's sort of almost emanates from the culture itself. People want to see
Hmm.
you succeed. They're sort of rooting you on, that kind of thing. Generally, is there any difference in the culture in Germany in terms of that, either how they view entrepreneurship or anything like that, aside from like the boot of the government and taxes and regulations? What about just culturally in general? Do you find that Germany's hospitable to entrepreneurship,
I
or
think
is it
it
still
is.
tough? Or
Yeah, I think from a culture standpoint, I think it very much is the same, and people are rooting for you. But you know, and I don't know what the statistic is in Germany, but the last time it might have been a couple of years ago when I read the statistic that in the U.S. you have about 60% small business,
Mhm.
so it just feels like it's more friendly towards small business. To where in Germany you just have so much. I do not know how to say this word in English. Bürokratie.
Bureaucracy?
Yes, there you go,
Mhm.
Chris. Good job. So, um,
I, I could suss it out.
so it's just those kind of things, and maybe I'm just telling myself that to be like on fire over here and getting things done. But that's just I don't know. There's a reason why people say it's you can create the American dream over here, and I feel like
Mhm.
myself and my family. That's just how we feel, and yeah.
So you said your dad was a builder. Is your mom involved in design or construction or anything like that? Did she instill any of this into you?
My mom is an artist,
Okay.
so she's always been very creative, and she's never worked really in the world of like professional design or anything. But in Germany, like both of our homes that we lived in, she was the one designing it, while my dad was the one constructing it. So she
Okay.
just loved doing that, and she has a very creative mind.
Okay. So I could see where the sort of um, the combination of your mom's love of design, even if it wasn't necessarily professional, and your stepdad's, construction background would influence you to what you do now. So,
Yeah, and honestly, it was actually my real dad, and then he was in the German military. My mom was in the American military and was stationed over there, and then left the U.S. military, and then he was in the German military, and on the side, he was building businesses, and one of them was new construction. Unfortunately, he passed when I was at a very young age, but that was
hmm,
just instilled in us, like he was always up to something. And then my
okay.
stepdad, it's funny, he actually knew my dad. They were like going to the same school. We found all that out like later on, but he was also in the trades. So he was just, or is still in the trades. He's like a master paver and just super involved with like street construction, but from there can do anything.
Okay. So your biological dad had had like that entrepreneurial spirit, the go
Yep,
getter kind of attitude.
totally.
Oh, very cool. And so when you arrived stateside, you landed in Georgia. That's
Yep,
where you started.
yep.
And did you start your business there? Like, did the material
No,
bar start there? Or
nope. I was there and then ended up in the Pacific Northwest. When I was in Georgia, it was kind of like a freak accident that I ended up working for a countertop fabricator. And in Europe, specifically in Germany, I would say that we only have about 30-35% of stone surfaces that we use. So people are very, very much into high quality laminate countertops. So it was a very different feel in the US.
Mhm.
And then I ended up working for this fabricator and immediately fell in love being in construction. Like it was just so much fun.
Hmm.
And from there, then studied kitchen and bath design. And then I came to the Pacific Northwest and I knew exactly that I wanted to be in this industry. And then I seeked out a general contractor that was almost like a design build. And I tried to learn everything I could. But within a year, I realized, because I studied business in Germany and I was like always very fond of like, okay, what's the operation? And I don't know. I was like maybe just young and crazy, but I was like, after a year, I'm just gonna go for this. I'm just gonna do it myself and figure this out.
So what brought you from Georgia to the Pacific Northwest? Like what specifically made you go, "Oh, you know, Washington's where I want to go."
Yeah, my ex husband was actually in the military. So I
Okay.
met him overseas. He was stationed in Germany. And then we moved to the US. And then he was stationed there in Savannah. And it was really fun. And,
Hmm.
it was a little bit of a cultural shock, but it was really, really fun to see that side because our family is all on the Upper East Coast.
Hmm.
So that was cool. But then we had a little bit of a say in where we wanted to go. And I just had a lot of German friends already in the Pacific Northwest
Okay.
from the military. And people were just, it's like, it just seems like the weather and everything is the same like Germany. So we were like, why not?
Ah.
And I just fell in love with this area.
So does it feel do you get that sense of home being up there weather-wise?
It is very much the same, like the four seasons, the weather. Yeah, it feels very much like Germany, and it helps that there is an unbelievably good German bakery very very close to my office, and it's like it's authentic,
Oh,
So
you can't beat that when you find
no,
something
it's
like that.
good. Yeah.
Okay, so you said that you basically sort of like you worked with that was a general contractor or something, and you basically tried to absorb and learn all that you possibly could.
Yes.
Did you have any like formal schooling, or was it all just sort of teaching yourself?
Yeah, I did an associate's degree in kitchen and bath design.
Okay.
But I have to admit, like I was doing that, and then I started working at that general contractor's office, and I was kind of only doing it to see if there's anything that I'm missing. But
Hmm.
I have to admit that everything that I've been doing and learned, it was all learning from doing.
Hmm.
I mean, I got my first insight into like 2020. So we end up specialing in cabinetry. And I remember I got the program on a student discount, but then went ahead and paid for the difference so I can utilize it in full scope, and then already went out and started like just working with it like immediately. I was just so drawn to it. It was very limited like in the class. I feel like a lot of times when you go to college or certain things, it's kind of like you're scratching the surface or you're learning, but then it feels different as if you were to apply it.
Right.
And with me just immediately being out in the field, it felt like I was just learning so much by actually doing it.
Yeah. Theory versus practical.
Yeah.
Right. And then once you or when you were going to school, did you sort of feel like, oh, I already know all this stuff? Like you guys are,
I
you
mean,
know,
no, it was, the thing is too, like I had a time, a very long time actually, where I was nervous about working in the US with English being my second language. I was very much like afraid that I wouldn't understand certain things. So I really enjoyed going into those college classes because I would learn certain vocabulary
oh, okay.
for the industry. And that just helped me because if I can articulate myself in a topic really, really well and confident, that's when people understand they're working with a professional. And I felt like that really helped. Like doing those professional classes really helped with that.
Hmm. Yeah, I always admire it when people are bilingual. But I know how the structure of German language. It's sort of it's reversed, right? Where like the action comes first in the sentence, and
It
then
is, yes. And
right.
then we have like, in America, it's like the for
Uh,
everything. And then in Germany, we have like three versions of that.
uh, do you ever find it interesting? Like, I mean, I don't even know how I would even ask this question, but like when you think like is are you thinking in English or are you thinking in German? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like when
that
you hear
totally
sort of
makes
the voice
sense.
in your head that's like explaining things. what do
Yes.
you how do you hear it?
So in the beginning, it was 100% German. And I think that it has taken over, but it depends because if I'm speaking with German friends, I'm speaking with my mom on the phone or my sister on the phone, or I'm on the phone with German friends, like it's just it immediately comes back and it's immediately, oh, I'm thinking everything in German. But then if
Hmm.
I'm hanging around a group, here, friends in the US, and then we're talking, I feel like maybe the rest of that day I might be thinking more in English. So it kind of goes back and forth now.
Interesting. Huh. So I'd like to actually get into present day and what you're doing now. Maybe you could just give us like a little brief synopsis of the name of your company and what you do exactly.
I'd love to. Okay, so I own a kitchen and bath showroom called the Material Bar, and we are located in Lakewood, south of Tacoma in Washington, and we specialize in all sorts of cabinetry. And because we just ended up doing these projects, and even like very hand to hand with a lot of homeowners, there was this need that developed for us to create these full material packages. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the brand name of the Material Bar, but to at this point, to how the company has evolved. We started with cabinetry, but at this point, yes, cabinetry is what we pride ourselves in, and we carry several different lines, including our own line now. If we talk about that, but along with that, now we also offer everything that can go within the inside of a home. So any kind of surface that gets installed, and that also includes wallpaper. It includes tile. It includes countertops, flooring. So all these good things.
Awesome. And so, why the Material Bar? Where did that name come from?
I love it. So actually, so the company is over 6 years old now, and when I first started, I just didn't give it much thought. I just thought something with kitchen, and it was actually called King's Kitchen. And we were rented out. Our first showroom was just a very, very small showroom, rented or a leased office somewhere in Tacoma. And during COVID, and it's so interesting to hear other people's stories during COVID or their business stories during COVID. But for us, I mean, in general, I feel like the construction world just was completely overran by people wanting to remodel.
Hmm.
And what ended up happening to us is because I do have other designers on our team. We were having a hard time closing some of our projects because people couldn't close their projects with their contractor, or they couldn't even find a contractor. And at that point, we weren't we didn't necessarily want it to be a contractor. That was never my intention for this business. So during COVID, we actually had 2 years of us running full projects. We ended up hiring a superintendent, and we went full scope so we could remodel these projects for our clients, as they were having a hard time finding good contractors or just contractors that had time. And towards, I would say, halfway through, I realized that I really want, like, my goal is to do something every day that I love and to work on my dream, and to also empower the people that work with me to work on their dreams. And we're very open about what are people's goals. And I felt like I was going away from my goal by being a contractor,
Hmm.
and I didn't get to work in kind of my zone of genius. And I just absolutely love the finish world, the material world, cabinets. I mean, I totally geek out on all the technical stuff. But to me, that's all like the fashion world of construction. Like, it's so much fun, right? You have all the different brands and they're coming out with new stuff, and like you're educating people on the different brands and what it means to use X, Y, and Z over this, right? Or how does
Hmm.
the production and manufacturing process work with these guys? Where does this come from, right? The story behind it. And while we were being a contractor, I felt like my time was just getting eaten up with all this project management, and I just didn't like it. I honestly didn't like it. I'm very open about it too. Like, I did not like it. So back then, at some point, my friend and myself, she is a general contractor. Now she loves being a general contractor. She's my best friend. We were actually sharing our office, and we love real estate. I love to invest into real estate. I do a lot of different projects. And we ended up partnering, and we were going to look for a commercial building so we could move our operations jointly into a different property. And we ended up finding something, and it took us a year and about 4 months. So we purchased a 5,000 square foot commercial building in Lakewood. We completely remodeled it. And because we were moving and I never liked our original business name, it was like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to rebrand. And whatever we're going to do, we're going to find a name that is fun, that we're going to have a lot of fun branding and marketing with, but that is very clear to people that we're not a general contractor. So we landed on the Material Bar because the word material is a very well known and used word in the construction world, you know?
Hmm.
So we love to help people design, and then we supply materials. But we went back to our roots in that sense of connecting them with the right contractor. And we have an amazing group of contractors that we work with. And even nationally, we can recommend contractors. But yeah, we'd love to just partner and collaborate with them and the homeowner, but we don't take on the project management.
Gotcha. So you were sort of finding it difficult or kind of just a pain in the butt, really, being a project manager, being having to like worry about all the different aspects of everything and getting you away from, I guess, what would be the more creative side. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's not my jam, you know? It's like the same as, I think just having this conversation, I think of a couple of contractors I just really enjoy working with. And, they'll say the same thing. It's like, I do not want to be a designer. I do not want to talk about these colors or how to lay this out or all these things.
Hmm.
That's not what I enjoy doing. And that's the same with me. I do not enjoy running the schedule and making sure everybody's on the job site every morning and at the house, that they're finishing up their scope and we're ready for the next day. I just don't enjoy doing that. And that is a lot of work. I mean, if anybody, is working on a project and they're thinking about if they should hire a contractor or not, that contractor has a lot of work just making sure to stay on schedule. And it took
Right.
over to the fact where I just wasn't able to spend as much time on all the things that I love doing. And then I had a really hard conversation with myself and said, we're going to finish out what we have on the books in terms of full remodels, which is, it was a whole nother year that we had to work through. But we're going to work on our new brand we're changing these locations. We have to get new cards and everything done, all the marketing material done. So let's focus on what we really want to do and what we do best.
So now you were mentioned how all this was sort of happening during the pandemic.
Hmm.
And did you find, I mean, obviously you sort of hinted at the fact that it was sort of a busy time actually for contractors because everybody was at
Very.
home, they were all doing home projects, and you sort of took it on because nobody else was available, everybody was just too busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but was there anything that was sort of like a necessity in doing that? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like when you stopped doing the contracting, was there any part of you that was like scared, thinking like, oh, like, am I going to lose out on business? Just like in terms of like making ends meet and
Hmm.
keeping the business going. Was there any sort of thought to that? Like, oh, if I get rid of this contracting thing, am I going to be able to survive just doing this thing, being more focused? Or was the amount of business coming in so much that you didn't really have that to worry about?
Yeah, honestly, it was really much the opposite. I wasn't worried about it at all because by us going out and being our own contractor, now the contractors that I would always work with in the past could be looking at me as a competitor.
Hmm.
But I have a lot of, or our team, we work with a lot of contractors. We supply contractors, we supply homeowners as well, but we really supply a lot of contractors, we supply builders, other designers. So it almost was beneficial to us to go back to our roots and really ensure to the contractors that we're working with that, hey, we are a collaborative to you. We are your supplier. We want to make your customers happy and give them a great front end experience. And by the time you're ready to remodel their home and start the demo, it's smooth sailing because everything else is figured out. Your materials are on site. It's just easy peasy from here. So it was actually the opposite. It didn't intimidate us at all from a business volume standpoint. It's, hey, all of my contractors are loving the fact that we're not a competitor.
Hmm.
We can connect them with potential leads, actually,
Did you have to do when you started your own business, even before you started taking on the contracting? Did you do research in terms of the area where you were, in terms of what sort of competition you had in your lane? And
Well,
did you consider that at all, or was it just like, oh, this is my passion, this is what I'm going to do?
yeah, that's really funny because every now and then I do a lot of networking, and every now and then somebody will ask me, "Hey, so and so," and I literally, I'm drawing a blank. I'm like, I don't. I've never paid much attention to competitors.
Hmm.
Um, I've never really paid attention to like the different areas. I feel like I don't know. There's just a general vibe when it comes to design that you can get from an area that you're living in, but the Pacific Northwest is extremely diverse in that sense.
Hmm.
But I just went for it.
That's awesome. Um, so I was diving into the material bar, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting, and to be honest, I don't know many people who do exactly what it is that you do. So I don't know what's typical and what's not. But just, I was really, really impressed with your technical knowledge of things. And it seemed like almost very data driven. And, just going through your website, going through your Instagram, there's so much helpful information,
Yeah.
um, that I didn't even think, and like I remember seeing the post you did on, the countertop height
Hmm.
and how it should be with, so many, centimeters or whatever, like we're measuring from your elbow to the ground and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, was that all, I mean, I find it so interesting. Would you say that that's typical, that sort of knowledge and stuff like that is explained from
No.
people, or is that something that you feel like is unique to you? Because I found it really impressive.
Yeah, there's the way of buying cabinets, which is basically, well, I'm going to sit a B30, a base 30 inches wide next to a, dishwasher or something like that, and then there's not much thought behind it. And then there is a complete science on
Yes.
how to lay out a kitchen and a bathroom that will work from you. And it is completely the form and function perspective versus fashion, right? So, what
Yeah,
is it going
you
to look
mentioned
like?
that. You said function over fashion, right?
Right. That's so important. And we have meetings with clients where we're like, we're not going to look at anything today in terms of colors. Nothing. We're not going to look at any materials. We're not going to look at none of that. We're going to talk about your layout. We're going to talk about what you're doing in your kitchen. Where do you have issues right now? And we're asking so many questions. And this is the good kind of scenario that I like to give. So, and this unfortunately happens in every industry and it happens way too often. But when I go out and I pay a professional for their service, I expect them to ask me the questions that I don't know to ask. That's why
Right.
I'm paying them. And unfortunately, too many people these days go out, buy cabinets, kind of just go on the color or just go about the price and do a drawing, quick drawing, boom, 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 done, 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 and then go about their project and go about their day. And then have the regrets afterwards where you hear things like, I wish somebody would have explained that to me. I wish somebody would have asked me that, or I wish somebody would have told me about that. So,
Hmm.
our whole mission is that our clients at the end of the day don't have any regrets. We're going to educate them, we're going to give them all the kind of innovation that's available and solutions that they didn't even know they had a problem, right? Before you talk to them about it. So we're going to address all those things. So in the end, they will never say, I wish, That's
Yeah.
really the whole goal.
That's what it was. When I was on your website and on your socials, it was very educational. And I didn't realize that there was a whole science behind it in terms of, heights of things, or like maybe you can explain, like there was one video where you did on the triangle
Hmm.
and how even like if you have a kitchen island, how that affects it. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, and those things, they really stem back from the National Kitchen and Bath Association, and I kind of mix the two a little bit. I use the American National Kitchen and Bath Association guidelines that we teach within our team like all the time, and then we take a couple of aspects from German design, German kitchen and bath design, and we kind of mix this very unique specialty together, this special sauce, right? But the National Kitchen and Bath Association basically spend years in research on what works in a kitchen and what doesn't. And when people go out and they may work with a contractor, and don't get me wrong, there's contractors out there that are really in tune with everything that they need to be doing, but then there's contractors that just go by the building standards. So for example, a walkway should be 36 inches. Well, in real life, if I look at the studies done by the National Kitchen and Bath Association, a 36-inch walkway is not going to be sufficient in real life. It might get you to be approved on your building code and you can occupy the space, but in reality, moving in the space, cooking in the space, and then it depends on how many people are going to be in the space and how many people are actively going to be cooking in the space, then there's a whole different reality that sets in. And that's where we take all those guidelines from all those years of research from the National Kitchen and Bath Association, and we kind of throw them in there. So, speaking of, like, for example, the kitchen triangle. So if you imagine a standard kitchen, and by all means, in America, we like to go big, but a standard kitchen has 3 work zones. So you kind of have your prep and your wash station, you have your cooling, refrigeration, freezer station, and then you have your cooking station. Well, in a good functional kitchen, it should be laid out. Those stations should be within a triangle, and none of the legs should be less than 4 feet. None of the legs should be more than 9 feet. And if you count all the legs together, you should not exceed 26 feet. If you can achieve that, you have a very functional kitchen. But what I like to tell people too is that these are guidelines. I very much have kitchen projects where we are not going to hit every guideline. And they are almost like markers that if we can check off a few of these, we're going to be on the right track in terms of function. But you can't always hit all of them, and I really make sure that people understand it. It's a guideline, but you can feel the difference. Like if you're working in a functional kitchen, you can feel the difference to a kitchen that's basically just, I kind of call them contractor kitchens, where it's like, yeah, we're just putting a base 30 next to a 3-drawer 21 or something like that, because we can fill the space, using just kind of builder grade cabinets
Mm-hmm.
without much afterthought. So kind of contractor kitchen versus a real functional kitchen. And then when you throw in some of the German aspects, so German design is very much about body ergonomics. And you see a lot of features that are not standard in the American world that are slowly, we're always about 10 years behind, I feel like, the European market. So they're slowly starting to be integrated over here. But in other cultures, we think that we need to lay out the home so it can help our bodies have less stress, right? I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
said that right, but that's basically what German kitchen and bath design is. It's like we want functionality, we want cleanliness, and we want to be able to work in the workspace without additional waste of movement, right? So we don't want to do extra bending down, digging into a cabinet. We want everything to be drawers and we're pulling them out towards us. So just focusing on a couple of those things, you can definitely feel the difference once the kitchen is done.
Yeah, and it feels just like the way you approach it, it's just so smart. And like you said, it's like if I was to remodel my kitchen, I would want someone who knows what, everything that you're saying right now to educate me so that I'm not just, putting things that I think look nice in an area and putting, a hammer to nail and making it happen without any of those considerations of height and how far you are from those 3 zones and all that kind of stuff. It's really, I don't know, I think it's really smart and really fascinating that that you bring that to your clients. That's really cool. Um, you had
Thanks.
mentioned that you had launched your own brand. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we consider our company. We consider brand building is what we're doing. Like all of our marketing, we consider that to be our brand,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we've been doing a pretty good job at it. We've been very consistent. Very early on, we started a YouTube channel, and that was just my outlet to talk about kitchens.
Yeah.
And we're just constantly trying different topics and what works. And, it's really interesting to see how, I don't know, just random topics completely blow up in terms of views and then others stay a little smaller, right? But we're learning from that. And our goal has always been to give out this content. And there has been nothing more rewarding than, like, I just got an email a week ago, and it was from an architect and not local. And he emailed me, and he just sent me the nicest message. And he said, I've learned so much from your channel, and I really appreciate you doing that. And there's nothing in the terms of like, oh, I'm making money off of this or anything like that. It's just, it feels good,
Yeah.
like sharing that with people. And I never forget how very early on there was a lady she was in New York, and my grandma actually lives in New York. And she got taken for her money. I don't know how to say that sometimes correctly, but
Ripped off.
she got ripped off. There you go. Okay. She got ripped off, I think twice
Oh,
by two different contractors. And then she was asking me for advice. And then obviously I ended up calling her and walked her through a couple of things like L&I, and you can look up people and, don't necessarily hire somebody that just has a truck. You want to make sure that people do have an office these days. So there's some sort of, where to find people. And
yeah.
yeah, so things like that. It was like, it just reminded me of my own grandma. Like, oh my God, I hope my grandma never gets, I hope she never gets ripped off. So
Right.
yeah,
But
it's just been really fun to do all that.
did you say though that you like, or there's a product line or something that you guys have launched in house or something?
Yes. So it's so funny. So we're total cabinet geeks, and we actually just partnered with a local factory to produce our own line.
Okay.
And it's so fun. We're so excited about the customizations that we are going to be able to provide to people. Again, I look at this industry very much as the fashion world, and there are things happening and images being shown on Pinterest and on the social media, on the different platforms, and you can't really buy it anywhere. So our cabinet line, it's a custom line, but it's priced very fair to where you're basically paying for like the materials you're using.
Mm-hmm.
And the fun thing is we're just gonna be able to do some of these really cool things like fluted panels, fluted details and areas, certain panel integrations, rounded ends of islands, just very cool stuff like that. We are going to be able to do that. And I always want to set myself apart from the rest. And our designers are just super stoked about it. We don't even have a cabinet name yet. But we're already quoting projects or doing all these things. We're like, we need to, come up with these cool things so we can show them to our clients. And so we're just super excited. It's been 6 years, 6 years in the making, and we
Wow.
finally found the right shop to work with us on that.
Well, congrats on that. So you don't have a name for it yet, but it is something that you're presenting to your clients when they work with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. But at this point, there's no like website or anything for them to go to find that particular product line.
No, not yet. It's so new. We're literally working on the different finishes right now so we can have our own lineup. And we're
Hmm.
literally going to the vendors of the vendors, and we're sourcing the right kind of quality materials that we want to use. And we're setting a couple of guidelines and how is it going to work with the different paint finishes and the different color selections. Because in the semi-custom world, you only have about maybe like 21 paint colors in cabinetry that you can pick from, which
Hmm.
is already a lot. But then you still, as a consumer, maybe you don't want everything that everybody else has, right? And I've
Right.
always been like that. I want a very unique space, and a space that describes me and makes me feel really amazing and at home and comfortable. And so that custom line, there is no custom charge for custom paint. It's like, well, what is the paint finish that we're going to do? So I'm just super excited about those little nuances,
Hmm.
because they're just going to be so beneficial working on some of these projects. And yeah, it's exciting.
Well, I guess,
And a lot of quality. It's a smaller operation, more eyes on the product. And that's another thing that really excites me.
yeah. Well, I guess when it gets into customization and you're really giving people that sort of personalized experience where they can get something that's really unique to them, I guess that's maybe also where you might cross over with like wallpaper products as well, right? Because
Hmm.
that's where the design aspect comes in, I guess more on the aesthetic side.
Hmm.
Um, how has wallpaper kind of come into what you're doing in terms of kitchens? Is it just, you said you do kitchens and baths, but do you find that, like, 'cause a lot of times you don't see wallpaper in kitchens a lot because kitchens can tend to be, I guess, messier places where water is getting splashed, things that aren't necessarily, or grease and things like that aren't so friendly to wallpaper. How have you found that wallpaper has been either useful or maybe even not the right move for certain kitchens that you're designing?
Yeah, yeah. Very early on, it's actually really interesting. I saved a board on Pinterest that was all about wallpapers in kitchens, just to start showing it to people.
Hmm.
I think it just depends on what you show clients and what the possibilities are. And most of the time, when people come to you, they don't even know, you know, I'm not going to say everybody, because there's people, they know exactly what they want, and that's really fun too, right?
Hmm.
But there's people that don't even know what to search for. So they might not even know that they could do wallpaper in a kitchen, or maybe do it on the adjoining wall that takes the kitchen into the dining room or something like that, which is a project I'm working right now in Seattle, where I did just order a bunch of samples from you guys, because we're it's a very fun, just mid-century kind of eclectic style, and we're going to have a huge wall in that house. It's kind of like the primary wall. It's
Hmm.
going to be wallpapered. But if you think about it, I always look into the commercial spaces. I mean, I have, every time I land in a hotel or something, I have the best time checking out all their wallpapers, like checking out all of their finishes. It's just so fun to look at, and thinking about taking some of those ideas more into residential for uniqueness. And if you think about wallpaper too, I mean, there's a lot of applications where you really want to use wallpaper, and it doesn't necessarily, dirty up the wall as fast as white paint, for example, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I love it. And I do a lot of real estate, and I work on a lot of real estate projects with people where I do go in and I give them a lot more advice than just cabinetry. And then we end up using other finishes like wallpaper and, tile and different things.
Yeah, so you are getting sort of into the aesthetic design aspect of it too, right?
Hmm.
You're picking, tile colors, flooring colors,
Hmm.
countertop, colors
Hmm.
and textures and things like that. So when you introduce wallpaper into a scenario like that, you know are you involved in that design aspect and taking into account, like, oh, maybe the client is liking these sorts of patterns, or these sorts of patterns and styles match, these countertops or this cabinetry? Like, are you putting all that stuff together for your clients?
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, there's always clients that have a lot of fun doing it, and they're a little bit more hands on, where we just make sure the overall is cohesive, makes sense. And then we supply everything, and then we make sure all the technical aspects are good. So we asked all the questions that we needed to ask and make sure everything is good on the functional side. And then we give just, as much or as little advice as they need when it comes to choosing some of the final color choices, for example, or patterns. And then there's other clients where it's literally, hey, I trust you, just pick it all.
Hmm.
That's fun.
Yeah. And so, one of the things that it can always be tricky is when you're putting wallpaper in like a kitchen space. Like I was saying, sometimes it can be a harsher environment. Are you ever having to like um, put like finishes or waterproof the wallpaper by
Mhm.
putting clear coats on it or anything like that, or are you just going sort of more for the more durable vinyl type stuff because it's in that sort of environment?
Yeah, I've used it over a 4-inch backsplash before.
Hmm.
And that obviously that backsplash helped because that's right the wet area. And then I've used it on walls that are not necessarily wet walls. So
Hmm.
there's no sink in the area. It's more of like a buffet wall or something like that in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We also do commercial spaces, so we see it a lot in the commercial world, and there it's really buttoned up right to the countertop in certain areas. And so I think it just really depends on the space and the actual wallpaper that you're choosing. But like I said, it could be in other areas too. It could be the ceiling, it could be
Yeah.
the ceiling of the whole space for that added touch or that added flair. I love it in powder bathrooms. So we work on a lot of powder rooms, and even when we work on new construction, it feels like people are more um, it's easier for them to go a little bit funky and more free spirited in design on a powder room. That's where your guests will go, than necessarily your whole house, right?
Right.
So we love to have fun with people and like putting together a powder room, go funky, have wallpaper in here or the entry room, things like that.
Yeah, it's a closed off room that's not gonna you're not gonna really see it from any other space in the house, so it's not really affecting any other aesthetic. It's fully contained.
Yeah, but it's so interesting how people are like, they will walk into a house that, let's say, has a lot of bold colors, wallpaper. There's something going on here and they love it. But then being able on their own to picking it and actually saying, let's do this, people do get scared. And I think that our designers on our team, they have amazing taste, and they will give, I would say they will help people like have their own freedom to like trust in their own style and being like okay with it. Like we have a saying, it's like, trust into your own style, because like what you like will never go out of style.
Hmm.
So just trust in it and be yourself. And then I think with a little bit of courage, we've had so many people come in that were, they go on Pinterest. They don't know what to look for. So they might come in with a picture of a white shaker kitchen, but by time they're done, they have maybe something completely different, right? Because
Yeah.
they listened to our designers, they opened up a little bit, and that's really, and everybody who ended up doing that, like all those projects that turned and got like just more interesting, everybody just always loved it so much. And that includes, cool finishes like wallpaper or tile, things like that.
What about you personally? What sort of styles or patterns or things that do you personally like? Like, obviously, if you're working with a client, you're gearing it towards their aesthetics and what their likes and dislikes. But if you're doing your own house, what can we expect to see in a perfect world where you didn't have any sort of limitations?
Yeah, in a perfect world, it's honestly, it's really difficult because I love a lot of styles.
Hmm.
And my thing was always pick a style and then do it in the most authentic, fun way. But I have a lot of different, I don't know, like passions for different styles. Like well, number one, when it comes to wallpaper, I'm one of those people that's obsessed with the palm tree wallpaper. Just any kind of shape or form of palm trees. I have a huge palm tree tattoo on my forearm, so I'm a little biased when it comes to that. But I love 50s vibes, Frank Sinatra vibes. I love the mid-century modern designs. I was very much influenced by the Southern, kind of that old world Southern charm. But then I also love, and that comes from Europe, when you have a lot of very, very old world elegance, like crown molding, very old hardwood floors, clashing with like super modern flat panels, super edgy stuff.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of different styles.
Do you ever have time to do your own home, or is it all just is it just you're not even, is it sort of the kind of thing where it's like you do this for work all day and then when you get home you're just not really wanting to do any of that?
Well, I do. I have never worked on my forever home. The last three homes that I've lived in, they were all kind of like, well, they're more of a real estate investment. I'm going to move in
Hmm.
and kind of like dress the house up and then eventually move on. And so I never got to do the whole, this is maybe like my forever home or my friend calls it her 20-year home,
Hmm.
and really think about those details. And that's okay because right now I get to play. So right now
Yeah.
I'm in a property that I've purchased and I get to just do some funky stuff and test it and then use it for our social media and have fun with it and invite a bunch of friends over and designers and then see what I liked about it and what I didn't like. And then by time down the road, I will do my forever home. I know I will pretty much know what I'm gonna try to go for.
Yeah, that makes sense. You
Yeah.
got a lot of time to test things out and see what you like and what you don't like.
But I tell you, there will be a lot of wallpaper. And that's like a 50s kind of Frank Sinatra inspired style that I'm doing in there. And
Yeah,
it will be really fun in the entry. I've got like a really fun butler's pantry, kind of walk through butler's pantry. So there's going to be some fun things.
that's cool. Well, fun is definitely a big aspect of your brand, I've noticed, because while you obviously you can tell that you take what you're doing very seriously, it doesn't seem like you take yourself super serious. You guys seem like you have a lot of fun. So it looks like you have a small but very close team that you're friends with. You post a lot of things that don't even have to do with
Yeah.
kitchens and baths, and just it sort of just looks like a party going on at the material bar. um how important is it to have that kind of levity with your business?
I mean, the construction itself is a business full of challenges or an industry full of challenges. And when you have the right mindset, obviously those challenges don't bother you because we understand, like people in construction understand, like, yeah, it's just something comes up and we're going to figure out the best way how to go about it. That's kind of how it is. But for homeowners or people that don't really remodel a lot, it seems like anything is always, oh my God, like it's the end of the world, right? Just little things, right?
Hmm.
And what we want to do is once a project starts in the sense of construction actually begins on somebody's house, it becomes very stressful. So we take pride in taking that client and giving them just the best front experience to where they get all the fun, they get all the geeking out on colors, all the, technical aspects, all the planning, all the listening, all the figuring out the little details. So we want to make sure we give that to our clients. And for us, it's very easy to have fun in the office because I can honestly say that every single person that works on our team loves what they're doing. So it's not us trying to be fun. It's literally just all of us going to work and having fun with what we're doing.
That's awesome. Well, it definitely comes across because you can see it. You guys are having a blast. So
Oh, good.
it's I can see it being like, if very appealing if I was to looking for someone that does what you do. It just comes across as like, oh, this seems like the process won't be nearly as stressful, and you can have actually a good time with the whole with the process of doing it, rather than having it be this thing that just seems daunting and
Yeah.
costly and all that kind of stuff.
When I think it's really important for people to feel comfortable with you so they can say no. If I'm
Right,
working with somebody and I'm somebody I don't naturally and I think most people are like that they don't naturally want confrontation.
right.
And it's very important for us that we suggest things to you, but in the end, this is your kitchen. Just because we're suggesting something, that might not be the finish for you or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, you don't want them going along with you just to be polite, right?
Exactly. You're about to make an amazing investment into your home, but also into your life because you will end up with a space, that's the goal, that you really come home and feel comfortable with, right? Like just release all the stress, just be happy in your home. You're there's so much. So we want to give you the freedom of being comfortable around us to where you feel okay saying no. You're not going to hurt anybody's feeling. And I think by just letting people get to know our personalities, that we're friendly, we're fun, we don't take ourselves too serious, we're giving you the opportunity to come here and just be yourself, say yes, say no, however you need to, until we can all figure it out together.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, Kirsten, thank you so much for coming on with me today and introducing yourself and telling us all about the Material Bar. If someone wants to find out more information, can you just let us know where they go? What websites do they visit? Do they hit you up on socials? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe we talked this long already. That was fun. Yeah, people can definitely find us on our website. It's thematerial-bar.com. We also have a free schedule where they can book a virtual appointment with one of our designers for free. It's kind of a meet and greet. We explain a lot. And then obviously, if you're more in your planning stage and you have, you're very much at the front end of any kind of project, just follow us on YouTube. Follow the Material Bar on YouTube. If you just put in either my name or the Material Bar into YouTube, we'll come right up. Follow our channel, and then you can see all kinds of updates and inspiration and learn and just figure it out from there.
Yeah, I definitely recommend doing that. I've found your videos very informative, and I was just going, oh wow, at the end of every video. So I recommend that as well. Okay, well, thanks so much again, and hopefully we'll get to talk again soon.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for your time, Chris.
All right, have a good week.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.